The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock. If you miss an episode, you can always catch me on Apple or Spotify, or visit me at themainstreetcode.com. If you have any questions whatsoever about my program or anything concerning your personal financial, please give me a call at 631-647-4694. And when we talk about our code, we talk about choice, organization, direction, and education. And we help hundreds of advisors across the United States, whether they are accountants, attorneys, insurance professionals, financial advisors, investment advisors, in the areas of life insurance, long-term care, life settlements, disability, and annuities. And we help in that. We're a big piece of that planning puzzle. You know, your planning puzzle is made up of several parts. One is your investments, of course. 2 is protection. 3 is some of the legal things. Taxes is big. So whether you're paying taxes now, later, never, how much you leave behind, whether it's taxable, tax-free, all this is important. And right now, we have had an unprecedented run at the stock market. Unprecedented. And now is a time to take some money off the table and protect it. Very important. Okay? Just like if you're a gambler and you're on a heater, you got to take some money off the table and protect it, especially if you're older, but everybody should. And how do we protect those assets that we've saved and we've done so well in the market? For those who have done and experienced this big market boom, please, now's the time, take some money off the table. The market can go up and it can go down. And it can go, as quickly as it went up, it can go down. We've seen this time and time again. That's what the market does. I have 2 guarantees that I can make. The market will go up. The market will go down. You don't want to be caught when the market goes down and lose a lot of what you have. So how do we protect that money? Well, there's 2 ways we can protect your money. One is we have fixed annuities that can provide surety at certain rates. Right now, some of our annuities are running as high as 4.75%. Some can go up to 5%. You know, it all depends on the length of time you hold it and everything else. And annuities have a great tax saving vehicle for you because unlike the stock market, where you have to pay taxes on capital gains, you get to defer all the taxes on annuities. All that growth gets deferred until you use the money. That's a big deal. Tax deferral is huge. You don't get that when you're just buying stocks in the market. And that's a very big equation. So fixed annuities give you that long-term appreciation of not paying tax, which depreciates your money. Now, we offer fixed annuities with a guaranteed interest rate. We also offer index annuities. And index annuities are a very interesting phenomenon. And we also call them fixed index annuities. And basically, they allow you to still participate in betting on the market index, but give you a downside protection of 0, 1, 2, depending on the type of index annuity. So if you still want some exposure to this explosive growth and you think it's going to continue to grow, it's a nice place for some of your money. Why? Because if it continues to grow, you're going to participate in a good portion of that. And if it doesn't, if we have a crash, you're 100% protected. So they've become very popular and very, very, very common in everyday planning. And let's not forget about that magic called life insurance. Life insurance, you can invest in life insurance, and you can invest in such a way that not only will you protect all your gains or protect market money you have at risk at very low cost dollars to your family. So, hey, if you're up $1 million and you buy, you take 1% of that growth every year and you put it towards life insurance and you can protect $1 million. I mean, isn't that worth it? Taking 1% of your assets. What is that going to affect your growth every year? If I take 1% a year, I could protect that whole thing. The beauty about life insurance is, as a living benefit, it grows. Anything you put into that policy grows tax deferred, just like an annuity. But the beauty about life insurance, you could take it out tax free. And God forbid if something happens to you and you pass away, your family gets that death benefit tax free. There's no other asset that is so well protected from taxation. And taxation is what really depletes your asset tremendously. And let's talk about retirement for a second. So a lot of people are invested in 401ks and IRAs. They're not paying taxes on that money, which is great. And you get current tax deductions. Well, there's a new government program on retirement where if you have a catch-up provision, if you're in your 50s or past 55 and you haven't put enough away, the government has allowed for an increase in what you can put in. Now, what the government is saying is, on that catch-up provision, you have to put that money into a Roth. They're allowing it to go into a Roth, which means you're not allowed to deduct that extra money. However, it will grow in a Roth IRA or 401k, and that grows tax deferred, and eventually you can take it out tax free. I love Roth IRAs. I love Roth 401ks. I love the ability that when I retire, that I can have all this tax-free money and still invest it in anything I want. There are limitations in the Roth compared to life insurance. The limitations are there's only certain amounts I can put into a Roth, and it doesn't have that feature called death benefit. It doesn't have that death benefit feature with that leveraging amount to leave tax-free. So when we're doing a plan, we look at all things. There's not one solution. I'm not like, hey, you got to buy life insurance. Then that's not the only solution out there. There are a lot of solutions. It's a piece of the puzzle. Using annuities and life insurance, we can do a lot of protection and growth without the risk. Protection, growth, no risk. Protection, growth, no risk. That's the key. You want guarantees? Great. And if you've done very well in the market, my overall message for the first part of this program is, if you've done very well in the market, it's time to take money off the table. This market is hot. I'm not saying when it will go down, but forecasters are saying we're going to have a correction. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I don't know if it's a month from now. But it's overly heated. When the earnings get when everything gets distorted versus earnings, take some of it off the table. please. And even if you're not taking off a lot off the table, insure it so you know that you haven't lost it for your family. That's the message today is please look at your investments, take some off the table, and be aware of the new retirement contribution programs which are changing. And I'm going to get a little more into that after the break. You're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. Best way to reach me is 631-647-4694. And again, if you miss an episode, you can always catch me on Spotify or Apple, or, go to Long Island News Radio and do a live stream if you're out of town. We're always here to help you. Thank you, and we'll be right back after a quick break. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein, and we're talking about the first half of the program about if you've done really well in the market, now's the time to pull some money back and protect it in a safe manner. You always talk about diversification, but you don't want to get caught up in having all your chips on the table because the market does go up and it does go down. So we talked about protecting that. There are new mandates when retirement plans coming into effect in New York. We talked about this a couple years ago. I think it's starting in 2026, where New York State is going to require that if you're an employer, you have to have a retirement program for your employees. That includes part-time employees that work a certain number of hours. I'm going to have an expert on to talk about some of the details and some of the retirement plans, but there's a lot of legislation coming out now that you need to know about if you're an employer. And the key is this. If you're not talking to somebody and you're self-employed, or you have people that work for you, and you don't know the regulations, which I wouldn't expect you to. If you're running a business, you're trying to make money, you got a lot on your plate, you're paying salary, maybe you're paying commissions, maybe you're paying vendors, you're receiving money for this and that, and there's a lot to keep straight. But if you don't have professionals behind you, you could get caught up. Last week, I got a call because from a big organization, they forgot to pay their workers' comp or something, and they got declined. Well, New York State came in and gave them a huge penalty. It actually happened to me when I first started my business. There was one of the insurances I didn't have that I didn't know about, and New York State came in and fined me. And nobody wants to be fined, and you could claim ignorance. The state doesn't care. Ignorance doesn't work. So you need to be abreast of if I have to put a retirement plan in place. If not, New York State is going to have its own retirement plan. And I'm going to tell you, their plan is going to be restrictive. It's going to be regulated. It's probably going to be expensive. It's probably not going to give you as many options. So you really want a custom plan for you. There's a lot of 401k requirements, and especially if you have a doctor's office and they got to cover employees and maybe part-time employees, and they think they're very limited to what you can put away. Well, we do combination plans with profit sharing where they don't have those requirements. So there's a lot of ways to maneuver so that you can take advantage of some great tax deductions that are out there with retirement planning. And let's face it, we have to prepare for the inevitable. I mean, who knows what could happen with our professions? You think you're very safe. You went through medical school and you're a doctor and you got a great practice. All of a sudden, AI comes in and they start diagnosing, and the health insurance companies aren't paying you what they should be paying you. And all of a sudden, your expenses become greater than what you thought you were making, and your whole profession can change in a minute. As many have. Federal workers, I really, really feel empathetic towards you right now. If you don't know whether you're getting paid or you are getting paid and you don't know if your job is secure, it's a very uneasy feeling, especially if you have a family and you have bills. We all have bills, to not know where you're working tomorrow. It's got to be horrendous. And if you're in that situation, you should reach out, even though you're in that situation. And if you're not in that situation, you have to prepare that what if something happens. Not just health-wise. What if something happens to my profession? What if something happens to my job? You know, I know a lot of people in the insurance business. I know where I specialize. I know a lot of people that specialize in Medicare insurance. Okay? They now no longer, I got an email yesterday from a good friend of mine who writes some insurance through me, but he does a lot of Medicare insurance. And that Part D medical, which is your drug card, he no longer is getting compensation for, nor is anybody else. So he wrote a letter saying CMS is no longer compensation, so you can no longer call a health professional and ask for advice. I mean, you can, but they probably won't spend the time to give it to you. If they're not making money and to do their advice, how are they supporting themselves? So they have to, any Medicare agents that listen to this show really should talk to me about transitioning into doing more planning, not just Medicare, because they've cut commissions drastically. And to an insurance company doing health insurance and Medicare insurance, you need that professional. That's not me. I don't specialize in that area. Okay, I work with tons of people that do, but you need a professional to guide you through all the different types of plans, whether it's an advantage plan or a supplement plan, whether it's what type of drug card. I mean, there's a lot of questions to ask. And what drug plan should you be on? It depends on the drugs you take. Well, there are government sites, you can look that up, but the government is saying, hey, you now look it up, because as a professional, you're not going to get the same kind of guidance you had yesterday, because nobody's paying for that guidance. And that's a problem. But you need to know that. So, any profession, where I was going, is vulnerable. You really have to see into the future. And professions have changed dramatically. What used to be a great profession may not be so anymore. So, whether you're suffering because you're a federal employee and you got to look at the next steps and look at what your benefits are. And I have to tell you, you have a thrift plan if you're a federal employee. That thrift plan is not so good. You really ought to look at maybe putting it into your own investment plan. And we do a lot of that where we're looking at their thrift plan. If you just lost a job in federal government, you may have lost your life insurance, which was kind of paid for by your employer. So now all of a sudden you don't have that. So you have to get that back. And the worst thing is, if you're put in a position where you are relying on your employer or the federal government to help pay for what group insurance, and all of a sudden you realize you lose all these insurances, and then you're sick on top of it, and you can't get new. This is why you got to plan, because you can't depend on employer benefits to last forever. So you have to have your own benefits and do your own planning, and that's where we help specialize. Again, these are plans you have to do. The federal government, I looked at the CMS site on long-term care, and they used to have a plan. They actually say on the federal benefits plan, we no longer offer that. So you may think you have something, and you really have to look at your employee guide, and you don't have coverage. And long-term care is one of those things, disability is one of those things that you don't get the coverage you think you're going to get by having your employer pay for it. You need your own. And for you that doesn't know what disability coverage is, if you become disabled or can't work for more than 90 days, okay, and you are just relying on your employer's plan, it's not going to be enough money to cover you. And if you happen to lose your job, you lose your coverage. So you got to have your own. Disability insurance is paycheck insurance. It ensures your paycheck will be there so you can support yourself and your family. Very key that you look at it, and so many people don't. They think, oh, I'm at work, I'm covered. No, you're not. That's why you got to call us. And now you've been listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. If you have any questions about anything I said today or something else, give me a call, 631-647-4694, or visit me at themainstreetcode.com. Thank you. Have a blessed day and a terrific weekend. Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.